Thanks. That's
Are
all.
we back? All
Yep.
right. So this is board chair for Sendero, Charter High. We're making a motion to come out of closed session, and go back into open session, and we'll resume. We need to make a motion. So is there a motion to come out of closed session and resume open forum?
I'll make that motion.
So I'm sorry, can I just stop you right there? So you can't motion to come back into an open forum, you're just in the open forum.
Oh, we're open, forum, okay.
And then
So
roll
you
call.
just say that
Roll
you're
call.
back in the open forum
the
at
forum.
whatever time, and then you make your statement of closure. So sorry to interrupt.
No, thank
Thanks.
you. So we are back in open forum. The time is 10:53 a.m. Let's take a roll call.
Jaime Quesada.
Angela Parra McMillan.
Mike Davis.
Patricia Gonzalez. Sorry.
We're back in open session.
We're back in open session, as of 10:53 a.m.
And then you just make your statement that says all matters were discussed were pursuant to the statute identified for limited personnel matters, and that no action was taken and no other matters were discussed.
I'm sorry. All matters are pursuant to motion identified,
Statute.
right? Statute
Yeah, statute identified.
that's identified, sorry.
Oh, yeah, no problem at all. And that no
Pursuant
other
to the
matters were
Open Meeting
discussed
Act. Open matters were discussed.
and no action was taken.
No action is taken. Sorry,
That's
guys.
right. Nope, that's okay.
Thank you.
And then you just get a roll call to affirm that statement, and then you're done with the
All right.
executive session.
All right, we'll again roll call.
Jaime Quesada.
Angela Parra McMillan.
Mike Davis.
Patricia Gonzalez.
All right, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Sam, for that guidance.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to move on with our agenda, which is open forum. We're currently at the school. Maybe there's nobody waiting
No, there's
to get in. Nobody physically at the school, and double checking the Zoom room. And there's nobody in the waiting room or in the Zoom call, so no open forum today. So we can move on to the next item, which is discussion and action on fiscal. And Ms. Cabral, you have the floor.
I'm gonna bring up all these budget documents that are required for our submission. And I will go ahead and begin with the unit value increase. So this is our 910B5. What we look at in this document is the units generated. If I can. So this year, the unit value for 26-27 school year increased about $240. So the initial unit value for this school year is $7,117. So I'll scroll down to the very bottom. Each section of our 910B5, you'll see has units for, this one is for our membership. All right. A little bigger. So this takes into account each of our membership reporting periods for this current year to project for next year. Our membership number to hit in order to stay within this budget that we've prepared is 201 students. And right here, you'll see that 274.3. Those are the units multiplied by that $7,000 number, bringing our actual allocation for that portion of our budget to 1.9 million. Oh, I'm sorry, the 329,160. So 2.3 million just for membership alone.
Let me ask you a question on the adjusted units. What's the adjustment consist of? The total adjusted program units. So we go from 274. So it's going to be by line item, right? I think it's 109 or whatever that line item is. Where you have the additional units, right? So you have the 103, 72, 80, 55, 20, 25 and 49.9, right? So when you look at the 201 units, you have your calculation of the 274, and then if we go down, your total adjusted units are gonna be the 329, so that is,
From the TSI, so.
It is. So if I scroll a little over, these are membership reporting periods. So it's an average of our 80 and 120 day.
mhm,
And then if you scroll over just a little more,
we got grade.
this is our teacher cost index.
Okay,
So annually, I complete a report that shows all of our staff in operating, what kind of licensure level they're at, their experience. And that in turn creates that factor
okay,
and is adjusted into our 910B5
Okay.
for the upcoming budget year.
So yeah, that basically essentially gives us a multiplier because we have pretty high level number of level 2 and mostly level 3 teachers, so that costs us more money to pay
Right.
them more.
right,
So they give us a increase to cover that.
okay. I just wanted to make sure that we clearly understood the
Mhm.
difference within that unit, because it is a different amount.
Yep.
Okay,
Next is our sped units. So that's also has that factor in their unit value, $248,000. Generally, we make up that portion in our salaries and benefits for our sped staff, as well as some supplies and services. But most of our sped expenses are through our Idea B grant. So we pay ancillary staff out of there, our 0.5 educational assistant and benefits.
I think if we could, going forward, or even for the next meeting, if we can just have a look back graphing students, like the count of students. I know we go about it over every meeting of what our student count is, but I think we want to continue to have that in a graph format year over year. So that way, as we go into budget for next year, we know as a board, month over month, what we should progress, what we should expect versus the actuals, so that we know that we're staying within that budget, right? So,
Yes.
so then that way we know what 2025 looked like as we're doing the budget, right, for 2026 into 27. So then when we move into next year's budget at the end of May, we can say, okay, we should be at 201, or because, our numbers used to be like in the 140s or lower. And so that means that the school is trending in a positive direction. So then that way as a board, we know, hey, whatever the formula is, the school's moving in the right direction to keep our census up. But if census drops, then we know how to adjust the budget therefore, or if there's a significant drop in student enrollment, what is happening. And I think with the transition, we need to really be mindful of that going into our new budgeted year, because with that change of leadership, we want to make sure that we know that those budgeted numbers are as accurate as possible so that we stay within the budget. Because, Matt gets to answer for that one, if that's the case, right? And so I think that that's a good checks and balances for us as a board also to look at that fluctuation and know, hey, by May, we should be, or April, we should be at 210, and if we're at 190, well, that 20 dip is gonna be a big dip for us. So we need to figure out how to recoup that based on budget, so we don't have a loss.
Thank you for that recommendation. Right, and then you'll see our at-risk units there, $357,000 is what it's generated. And then I do want to kind of zoom into this section here. These are our K-12 plus days. So for charter schools, if we go over a certain amount of days in our calendar, there is a multiplier or factor that is taken into account and also results in additional funding. So our total calendar is 167 instructional days. So 12 of those are going to be in this multiplier.
And we get a different factor for anything over 10. So when
Yeah.
you go over, so your first 10
So-
days are factored at 0.012.
Yep.
And then those additional 2 days we have over 10 will be factored at 0.016.
And you'll see here, this is the tier 1 factor.
Oh, yeah.
Small. And then that tier 2. And then this last page is just our final total budget number, and units. So, we're totaling a total of 457 units, bringing our total program cost to 3.2 million. There is a 2%, withholding rate
Mhm.
for PEC.
Or authorizer,
For author.
Public Education Commission authorizer, yeah.
So that's less that 65,000, bringing us to, our total generated units, 3.18 million. So this is a slight increase from last year. It's about $62,000. We did not generate, growth units this year, so that is where the change was compared to last year. Does anyone have questions on the 910B5? Okay. This is our calendar section, and like Matt did explain, that's that tier 1, tier 2, how many days were actually calculated, and then the units generated from each grade level. So 9, 10, 11, and then our seniors. So this pulled up is our public facing calendar for the 26-27 school year. Mr. Estrada did put this together, but for actual budget submission purposes, I did want to bring up the actual submission so that you can see how we created this and the actual hours that we were required to meet in order for this to be approved. So we are staying close to the hours compared to last year. Our minimum to meet is 1,140 instructional hours. So you'll see in this instructional piece here, the green means that we have met that instructional hours requirement, as well as our PD days or work hours for our staff, and then our cap of 4 remote instructional days. So this is what makes up that 167 instructional calendar that we are presenting.
And just so, you know, the board realizes there's not a lot of flexibility in our calendar because of the requirements. And then, you know, having a 4-day school week calendar, there's even less flexibility. So the framework of like when we start, when we finish, when the breaks are going to be pretty consistent year after year, just because we need to meet those requirements. And within the structure of a calendar year, that's basically what it's going to look like every year. Unless there's law or rule that gets changed with some of the requirements.
So our first contract day for staff will be July 13th, ending May 27th. Moving on to our salary schedule and assurances. This is a document required for our budget submission. Just stating that we are meeting the minimum salaries for level 1, 2, 3, any principals or assistant principals, there's a certain multiplier within their salary that needs to be applied. So once we have, if the board approves this today, Mr. Martinez will go ahead and get that signature in there and can upload that.
And these are all, like Priscilla said, these are all like state required minimums, so. Okay.
And I did want to go over the actual salary schedule in this worksheet. So what I did was input our current fiscal year salary schedule along with the projected for next year. And then this is kind of the increase that we'll be seeing. The reason that we did this is to, you know, we were reviewing other salary schedules within the area, realizing that it wasn't very competitive, specifically to district salary schedules. And if we are planning to attract and retain qualified staff, we believe that this is an investment that we need to make. And starting this year, I think would be, as discussed with admin, it's a good year to kind of transition into this. So that is there for your review.
And the change needed to be made because, as Priscilla stated, if we were to attract teachers that currently work at Las Cruces Public Schools, and we kept our salary schedule the same, they would actually take about a $5,000 or so dollar.
A $3,000 to $5,000 hit depending on their level and years of experience.
Yeah. And our current teachers are making very competitive salaries to what LCPS's current teachers are making. But the way the salary schedule was set up, we had anybody new come in, then they wouldn't be making as much. So, so increasing to be competitive with the LCPS's salary schedule really only added, Priscilla, about $15,000 to our projected budget for next fiscal year, because our current teachers that are gonna be, you know, coming back are already making what the salary schedule reflects.
They're already
If
at
that
or
makes
above
sense.
the new salary schedule because of their average raises for the last several years have put them above those steps.
Those dollars. Now, in terms of fringe, are we competitive with fringe with LCPS?
I think that
Are we
is
pretty
gonna come up, yeah, go, yeah.
Oh, is that coming?
So this fiscal year, we were actually through the legislative session required to do an 80-20 split.
Okay,
That's the first year that we've done it, but the district has been on that 80-20 split for I wanna
At least
say
a year,
few-
at least a full year.
okay.
So now we
Now
are
we are.
the same as them, yeah.
That's good, because then we can attract the same, we're at the equal
Exactly.
playing level with anybody else in the city.
And we have those recruitment tools as far as the project-based learning, the CTE, and the 4-day week is a big recruitment tool for us.
Uh-huh. That's
Yeah,
good.
that's what I was wondering.
That's good.
But when we're looking at qualified applicants, when they're losing $5 or $6 grand on the pay scale, that one day, that might not make up, that one day a week might not play into their factor,
Mhm.
deciding whether. or not to
Sometimes that
come.
work-life balance is very.
Yep, they've grown into that budget and now there's no choice to give up a day of work for $5 or $6 grand.
Mhm.
So
No, I
this- I
think
think
that's
this gives us the best opportunity to
good leverage.
coach, yeah,
Yeah, it's
to
good
snag
leverage.
the most qualified applicants to have
Exactly.
the biggest benefit for our school.
Exactly. I love that.
So here that salary schedule is in a PDF. You're more than welcome to kind of go through this. And then we are required to provide our increment schedule. We do have a stipend that's issued as an Enlace sponsor and as a NOVA coordinator. So that is also part of our salary schedule.
Both of those positions from the person that's running that requires additional time and duties and responsibilities above their current contract.
And then our Article 10A and 8, this is just certifying that we are sticking to those class loads and teaching load. I'm sorry. The staffing pattern, class load and teaching load certification. So this just states, if we are working on a waiver, if we were exempt from those statutes or not. Again, this is going to be sent to Mr. Martinez for signature once the board approves. And this, I believe Ms. Gonzalez is pretty familiar with this. This is just the approval that we are accepting the operating budget that we've created in our 910B5 for the upcoming fiscal year. And this just requires signatures from our board members, our admin, and myself. And finally, this is also required. It's a general checklist for our operating budget. You can go through and see that we are going over the checklist now. The approval of our operating budget that I just spoke about, Article 10A and 8, our salary assurances. You viewed our calendars, our certified 910B5, and then our revenue. All of our budget is actually in OBMS, so I can pull that up so you're able to see that everything was balanced.
when you get, talk about the cash carryover from
Yes.
here as well.
So you'll see this column where it says DIFF, which is the variance if our revenue and expenditures were out of balance, but there are no funds that show that difference. So currently we are prepared and ready to submit budget once it's approved to NMPED, and it is due 8 a.m. tomorrow. And I'll bring last thing is just the visual for our budget that I did provide last year. Again, this is broken down by our function codes because that is what we're held to as far as audit and NMPD by not being over budget within these actual functions. They are pretty similar to last year. You can kind of go back and forth to see. But again, the bulk of our budget is obviously in instruction where it should be. Salaries, benefits, supplies, travel, all of that relating to instruction, and just kind of goes down the line into administration, central services, and then our operation of our building. This is also something to kind of note the comparison from last year. Last year's 910B5 and then our projected cash. So our projected cash is added into our 910B5 allocation to give us a total budget. So while I did show that $3.1 million 910B5 budget, after estimating our expenses through the end of June, our projected cash is looking like $967,000. Which is a really good position to be in, especially with end of year pay for teachers, that extra pay, and then starting everything back up, closing out our grant funds, making sure those RFRs are received. Typically, I want to say end of July, early August is when we receive those final RFR allocations. So it is in the new year, and this cash balance does help us get through that delay in reimbursements. July is also known to have our SEG late. So that is just a really good position for us to be in right now. And it is continuing to grow. Since I've been here, it's never been this high.
Never been this high. I'm like,
Yeah.
good.
And
Very good place.
And that's due for, several different factors, but increased enrollment,
Mhm.
the number of grant funds that we have been able to utilize, receive and utilize. CTE programming is expensive, more expensive than traditional programming. We've been able to use those grant fundings to get all our supplies, expensive tools, equipment, materials, travel, things like that we utilize grant funding for. And also last year's legislation with the increase in the at-risk unit funding, increase in some secondary funding units, like legislation that was passed, that our lawmakers realize it takes a little bit more money to serve a population like ours,
Mhm.
has really helped as well.
Mhm. And I think too, and I mean, just adding it as we've gone through the year, I think Priscilla's budget spend, the graph on the budget spend is helping us look at that in terms of like, if, because if we don't spend the money, then we're gonna get cut the following year for not spending it appropriately. So controlling that spend and making sure as we're getting it and spending it accordingly is, I mean, that's from where we were to now. This is incredible, Priscilla.
I think Priscilla's done a really good job of
Mhm.
streamlining our RFR process for our grant funding to ensure that we're spending those grant funds down completely year over year and getting reimbursed in a timely manner.
Yes.
Because we can be awarded $100,000, but if we don't spend that, submit the RFR, it's not gonna be worth.
Any of it.
Yeah.
100%. So this is important, especially with those grants.
Some other considerations that went into the FY 27 budget is the 1% mandate in salaries and benefits that increase our 80-20 split, and that is effective July 1. So coming into the new contract year, all of that will already be taken into effect. Our risk premium, it's a 13% increase, which wasn't as large as it was last year, but we've we've seen this steadily increase over the years. It's never shown a decrease. And we've been told it's just because of all the claims that have been happening.
Not our claims.
No, not ours.
Just claims as a state. Yep.
Mhm.
They're having to pay out more, so they're charging everybody more.
Yeah,
Everybody
paying
feels
for
it.
it, just like
Yeah.
your insurance.
Yep.
No, we're-
Yeah. Sorry, but I will work with you and get a better quote. Okay, I'll leave that alone.
And just a visual, which I always find helpful. We are required to have most of our budget in direct instruction, which we do. You'll see that large blue piece there, and all of the other functions within our budget showing that percentage of the total. Does anyone have any questions on the operating budget?
This is pretty. My work can take some of your help with that playbook.
And then moving on to our special funds, Idea B, I did mention earlier, is what we utilize for our SPED ancillary, our SPED EA, and some contract services. The assurances are also part of the application submission. So this is what that document is. It's just a general checklist for kind of like what budget checklist was, meeting our all these compliance pieces, answering each of these questions. This form was already signed by our admin and Mrs. Gonzalez, just because it was due April 15th. So it was required in order to submit this budget to NMPD, but it is being presented now for board approval. Another piece of our Idea B application is receiving parent feedback or involvement in the budget. So this is just confirming that we did have that meeting with this parent, who they were, all their contact information if they needed to be asked about their role in planning that budget.
We also had all of our parents and students and staff fill out a budget survey as well, just so you all know, are aware of that. Of what priorities they think are important, what, how should we direct certain funds and things like that.
Just wanted to go over very briefly, because these are federal funds that are submitted a little differently. This is our allocation table for title funds. And I'll just go over each of them and how we utilize them in the school. Our Title I is used to support our one of our math FTEs and benefits. We also use it for supplies. We utilize a hard to staff stipend that's issued through there as well. And that does take up the entire bulk of that $144,000 award. And these are planning, so potentially next year, we could expect an increase or decrease depending on what that bureau hands down. Our Title II is generally only, we can only use this for professional development. So we've used it to fund some out-of-state PD for our health pathway, which has worked really well. It's a pretty small budget for travel, but we've been able to spend it down pretty well. And then our Title IV we use for our contract JARC services with FYI. So all of this is pretty standard in what we've seen in the past. The only exception is our Title II. This year we did have a higher budget because of prior year carryover. So that might potentially, again, happen in the fall or winter, where we would get that notice of a budget adjustment. Any questions on any of the budget?
Get all that, Mr. Davis?
I got it.
All right. I know y'all asked questions and comments during each section. Any other overall questions or comments? If not, we could entertain a motion to approve item 5C, A, B, C, D, E, and F, which is basically all of the, budget that we need to submit, to NMPED for next school year.
I just want to say that this is the cleanest budget and explanation of our budget from all, I'm not kidding you, in the last, since I've been on the board. So Priscilla, I know that you've worked exceptionally hard on this and it was growing pains, but this is exceptional. And I'm a happy girl with that budget. I'm a numbers gal, so I'm like, this is great.
Typically, I see eyes gloss over, and
Yeah.
I just like want to not have that happen.
No.
Oh, you do a very, very good job.
Really, really well.
It's
It's easy
understandable.
for us as a board to understand it, follow it, because it's not a lot of jargon. It's really explaining it granularly and then projecting what we need to know so we can make the best informed decision. So it's just beautiful. So I just wanted you to know that. Now we can make a motion.
With that, I will make the motion to approve the item number 5 discussion as far as the fiscal budget on A, B, C, D, E, and F.
Second the motion.
Seen? No opposition? Motion carried, and approved unanimously.
Yay, thank you.
Very nice.
Good job, Priscilla.
Very nice.
I believe that is, oh, we did. Okay. I can go over that real quick, that's fine. Okay, there is superintendent's report, sorry about that. There's no action items. Enrollment, I did mention this earlier, I mean, we're pretty steady with our enrollment right now to finish out the school year. But I talked to our registrar, Leslie, this morning. We have 30 students already in the queue, majority of them 8th graders.
A high number of H1s, true freshmen that will start with this next year, which is a number we really haven't seen, which really leads us into B too. So keep that in mind when we're talking about navigating our school
Yeah.
designation.
Do we know where that's coming from? Is it a specific area, group, school, region?
It's the change in our programming. They're interested, the word's getting out, the hands-on, the CTE relevancy, the internships, and
Great.
it's bringing the community members in. They're seeing the why.
Mhm. That's awesome.
I can, go
Madam
ahead.
President and members of the board, I mean, after this meeting adjourns, if you would like to see what that CTE looks like in action, we have a tiny home that's being built on property that you can go see in
Oh,
conjunction
wow.
with the ACC and our construction pathway.
I wanted to add that during my campaign stuff that I've been doing, I've been speaking to a lot of people, and Soneto's been mentioned so many times with workforce and everything, with the apprenticeship, everything that's happening here. A lot of the, like I said, the younger generation of kids that are coming, I'm very proud every time to say, yeah, I'm on their board.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
they are doing this. Yes, it's very much a need right now with where our juveniles are at, mindset and everything. They're finally seeing a path, and it's exactly what Soneto's been advocating for on what everything's happening here. So just want to say great job, and like you said, word is getting out.
So the opportunities that no one else in the community is
Mhm.
giving these students,
Exactly.
and being able to show these students that there's a different pathway, there's a different way. That traditional pathway isn't for everybody,
Mhm.
but they can still be highly successful after
Yes.
school through CTE.
And again, that leads into the next item. Matt, go ahead and you wanna.
Yeah, so navigate with our school designation. So because of our graduation rate, we've talked about this a lot. This is where it gets, like, the supplemental accountability units is where it gets really technical. So we only get a piece of every kid, depending on how many snapshots we get. For every 40 days, the kid's with us, at every 40-day count, that's worth a 16th of their whole 1 point. So our overall graduation rate percentage, we had a higher class and we had a higher percentage, but we shared a smaller piece of those accountability units last year. So we didn't see that growth in graduation rate overall from the state side as we would have liked to. But we did see it from a school's perspective of the amount of lives we changed last year did increase. So I think that's the win to take away from that. But because we haven't met those federal and state requirements for the minimum graduation requirements, we will cascade from comprehensive school improvement to more rigorous improvement.
Mhm.
And what that entails is those three options we discussed in closed session. And really, a lot of the work we've done this school year will be approved as part of our plan, depending on which one of those two options we go with. Because those graduation rates lag by a year to a year and a half, depending on when they get those reports out. The work we've done this school year with the reprogramming, the internships, the project-based learning, the pathways, the SEL, the professional development, the teachers have already begun. We're not gonna have to restart like a lot of schools are. We're not gonna have to completely redesign the wheel next school year. We're just gonna have to take what we're doing well now and get better at it.
Mhm.
So just taking that next step in the school's mission and vision, making sure all that work stays aligned with the kids and the staff in the forefront of our planning to make sure that we can show 3 years from now that we're making growth towards our graduation rate. And we're doing X, Y, and Z to improve it.
Mhm.
And I will say the team at PSB, we just had a meeting with them last Thursday.
Mhm.
And they are very supportive of the plan and the systems and the protocols that we want to improve upon next school year. And that they're in full support and agree that if we can improve those systems, it'll have a direct impact on our student population.
All right, last item. Thanks, Matt. Last item, board training. Mr. Davis, I got confirmation you're good. Got all your hours. Ms. Gonzalez, same with you. I know Ms. McNeely is in Canvas course.
Almost.
Almost finished?
Yeah.
Almost finished with that. Mr. Quesada, I know you signed up for, an early May training that you get your hours. Apparently that's gonna get postponed.
Yeah, I got an email that not enough people register for it, so they're gonna send out another email for a different, I think it's gonna be probably Canvas again
Okay,
and stuff, so I'll get in touch with you also.
okay,
To
cool.
make sure I get that done.
And then I did speak to Mr. Freitas, individually, and he's gonna do Canvas and make sure he's gonna get that done. So we should be good, you know, the deadline is June 30th for all the training hours to be complete.
And then graduation, if I can just add, I know that's not on there, but
Yeah.
board training. I've missed one graduation because I forgot it was on my birthday and, fun times. But I think if we can have as much presence at graduation, it's a great thing to be a part of. It really, for me as a board member, it's cool to see that all the things that we do behind the scenes, when you see these kids walking through and, a lot of them couldn't even been there if it wasn't for our school. So it's like a great, great experience to be a part of. So any member of the board that can attend, please do your best to attend.
That is May 21st at 6:30 PM at the Las Cruces Convention Center.
And it's not my birthday this year, so it's really
Good. Gotta be close to it though.
close to it every year.
May 21st.
Yeah. So
6:30, it's a Thursday.
And it's a quick, really, it's about an hour
Yep.
or so, but it's a neat feeling.
Alright.
It's not like traditional giant high school. It's so much more personal.
Mhm.
And so I would really encourage you to all attend.
Yeah,
be
personal
forthright.
and formal, but also relaxed
It's
and,
cool,
It's
yeah.
motivating though,
It
when you
is.
see the kids, I just,
right?
yeah, I love
And
it.
then they have a slideshow every year, which is
Yeah.
probably the highlight of besides their walking across the stage, but
Because you're a newest board member, not that I always want to pump us up, but it's a really cool thing to be a part of. It's what all these meetings are about.
thanks
So-
for bringing that up, because our next meeting is actually the day right before it, so it wouldn't
Yeah.
be too late to tell you by then,
Yes,
so.
I was like, oh my
Thank
God.
you, Ms. Gonzalez, for, Madam President, for bringing that up.
Yes.
All right, that is all. Thank you very much for your time. I know this is longer than normal. Thank you for being here. Mr. Mike, thank you for being on the phone, and we can now
We
adjourn.
can adjourn. We don't have to motion.
Yep.
Everybody have a great rest of your week. I want to go check out that tiny home. I want to go check it out.
Sure,
Yes, sir.
give me a call.